Hello, good evening, and welcome to The Standpoint. Tonight we are going to look at mobile phones. No doubt it's become a necessity. It's no more a luxury. That is somehow debatable, though, because some even have more than 3 these days. They have, almost all the networks. But tonight we are going to focus on children. Why do parents give mobile phones to their children? 6, 7, 8, even up to 13. Is it necessary for them to have mobile phones? Do they understand what these children use the phones for? The dangers that they can be, allowing their children to come into contact with. Before I introduce my guest to you tonight, we'll take a short break and we'll be back. Welcome back. If you just joined us, our topic for tonight: how safe is your child with a mobile phone? With me in the studio are, let's hear from Asari, who is a media consultant and a student. I also have with me Clara Pinkra Sam, who is a pharmacist and ITES consultant, and the woman who actually made this program possible, because she told me about an experience she had, and that gave us the idea for this program. She is Madam Susie Diakpo, who is a trader coming all the way from Koforidua. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Gifty, and thank you.
Well, Sam, it's a pleasure to have you travel all the way from Koforidua to be with us. So let me start straight with you. Can you tell us exactly what happened, why you called me and told me that it's important we have this discussion?
Yeah. For some time now, I've been receiving text messages on my phone.
Right.
I don't want to mention networks.
Right.
But they are scary to me as a mother.
Right.
That was why I called you in the first place. It comes and, in fact, I find it difficult to say on air, but it's got to do with sex and all those things in.
Right.
So when I look at that, and with the way we are giving phones to our kids at the moment, which to me are not important, I don't think children need mobile phones, especially when they are at home with us, number one. 2, when they are out in school, even in the SS, I don't think it is right.
Right.
Because the kind of things and the messages that they get, it is worrying.
Okay.
And I feel it's something that we have to take a critical look at.
Right. Okay. Now, on this program, we make sure that we say it as it is. So I will say that the text message was sexually explicit. Right.
Yes.
It's like phone sex.
Exactly.
That was the text messages you were getting. Okay. Now let me come to Clara, who is an IT specialist. Mobile phones. You've been home. You've been outside, worked with UN and other agencies for a while. Now you've come home. You know the situation in Ghana. Do we understand the use of mobile phones in this country?
Thank you, Gifty. I would say yes and no. For the first time in the world, we are in an evolution where kids seem to be the expert in a field where they tend to teach their parents, and that's the IT industry, where basically almost every teenager knows more than the mom or the dad when it comes to computers and the use of cell phones. Unfortunately, we are misusing a technology that is supposed to enable us enhance our living. And I believe that if we don't look at it critically, considering where we are as a developing country, it would really take us back.
Les, me and you, we know what mobile phones are. I won't ask you how many you have, but mobile phones, the way we use it in this country, are we doing the right thing?
I would say for those who need it to work, probably yes. I would also say that mobile phones have come in handy because, like, our profession sends us into areas where there are no landline phones, and therefore you need phones to work with. But when it comes to the youth and giving children phones, and you were talking about from 6 even up to 13, and I would go beyond and say even up to 17, because that's when they're coming out of SS. I don't think it's necessary for them to have phones. People keep telling me that, look, we have moved on, information technology is very important now. But I take them back, and I said, even before we got here, when we were in school, weren't we safe? Because that is what parents use as an excuse to give their children phones and say, well, they want to ensure the children's safety. And I would say that for that, then we probably are misusing the phones. Again, a lot of people, even adults, are misusing the phone because from what Auntie was saying, it probably isn't some young person who was sending such sexually explicit messages. And therefore, we need to be very, very careful. And I would say that we need to have a lot more education with regards to the use of things. We should look at the pros and the cons of it. We shouldn't just look at the pros and leave the cons out. If you don't handle the cons, it becomes a big problem, and that is something that we are being confronted with now.
Yeah. And back to you, Clara. Sometimes you wonder, I mentioned some of the ages. 6, 7, I was at one phone shop in Ghana here, and a mother walked in with a boy who can see he's barely 10 years, and the boy was choosing the phone that he wants, and this is a phone that was cost about almost 10 million, and he was insisting this one, and the mother bought it for him. And I was wondering, luckily around that time, Auntie Susie had called me, so I knew we're going to have this discussion. I was wondering that 10-year-old boy, what is he going to do with a mobile phone? Why would a parent give a phone to such a young child? Maybe you are coming from the Western world, so you can explain things better to us.
Well, Gifty, I'm a born-bred Ghanaian, brought up here, schooled here, and I'm more identified with the system than even the one outside.
Right.
But I believe that the way we are bringing up our children these days have a big negative impact on who they are going to be in the future. There is absolutely no reason why that parent should do that. I believe that the mobile phone would not serve as a security guard for the child. It is an arm. In fact, you are actually handling, the child is going to handle like a pistol. Look at it from another angle. Under what circumstance should you leave your 10-year-old boy alone to the extent that you believe that he or she can only be reached by phone to find out what he's doing? In fact, 10 years, he cannot even be responsible enough to be alone for him to explain to you the conditions of what he's doing, where, at what time, on a phone. It is not a necessary tool at that age. It is very, very dangerous. And back to what Liz said, you'd be surprised that text message could be coming from a teenager. You understand? You see, the teenagers are the largest consummate of mobile phones. And in fact, we are in an era where it's a form of self-expression, and they use it to express their feelings. We call teenage emancipation. They take it as a liberation from their parents. You don't get to monitor them the way we were monitored. We are not that old, Gifty, you and I. But we did have a lot of constraints at home. Here again, when we had landlines at home, if anybody calls, conversations were censored.
Yes.
With a mobile phone at home, you can just go even into the garage and say whatever he or she wants to say. So I think that parent is making a very big mistake. There is absolutely no reason why a 10-year-old, a phone, for what?
Sometimes...
Let me just add to what Clara said and say that when you give children that age phones, you're talking about somebody having bought a 10 million CD, you make the child the target. Because people are walking around, see a child of 10 with a 10 million CD worth phone. And then the people start to stalk the child, either to get the mobile phone or to monitor where the child is coming from and think that, well, there's so much money in that house. So then you open up yourself to so many security risks.
The parents, most of the time, before we did it, we tried to talk to a few of the young people who have mobile phones, and some parents said, well, the way the country is at the moment, now there's even the issue of kidnapping and taxi drivers doing all sorts of things, so it's important you give a mobile phone to your child so you can keep tab. As the excuse that everybody seems to be giving a tab on them to know exactly where they are so they can communicate with you. Is this good enough?
Gifty, it's not, because it's doing them more harm than good. And Clara said it could be coming from a teenager. But this particular text messages that I'm talking about are not coming from teenagers. because they have the short code things that you have to send text back to if you want more of those kind of information.
Ah, that kind
yes.
of, okay.
So it is not coming from any teenager. They may have their own way of doing it.
Right.
But these particular ones that I'm talking about are coming from adults. They are just looking for the money.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the text messaging, you are supposed to pay something for that. The normal one, I think, is less than 10 pesos.
Right.
But in that particular one, you are supposed to pay 50 pesos. So they are taking their money out of it. So I feel it is a business they are doing.
Okay, yeah.
And whoever is in charge of giving out the
short codes.
yeah, not the phones, but
The short code.
the short code.
Yeah.
They should be checked.
Yeah.
They should again find out even if they give out the short codes, who are they giving them to? What are they using them for? That's very important. And back to the question you asked. The children and the parents who are saying, I also talked to a few parents when I received those messages. And they were telling me, as you said, but it's even teaching them to lie. Because mobile phones don't tell exactly where you are. When you are in Asalam Down, your mother knows you are going to Niboy Town.
Yeah.
And then she calls you, where are you? Oh, ma, I'm almost home.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you are in Asalam Down.
Yeah.
And that one is also teaching them to lie. Again, it's having a very bad impact on their educational and academics. Because when they are in the classroom, some of them even are allowed to take the phones to the classroom.
Yeah.
They are in the classroom, there is a